Hello, friends. Welcome back to this final episode of the Veteran Transfer Project's resume series. I am Nestor Walters with Sword Circle Pen, working with Next Step Inbound to bring this to you. And this final episode, we're going to be talking about the checks we make, the final checks we make on our almost complete resume. So we are wrapping up. We first talked about the general mindset, keeping it simple. Then we talked about how to format and structure the basic building blocks of the resume. We talked about how to choose the bullets that we're putting in, especially the work experience section, and then how to adjust that slightly using those pesky, somewhat nausea-inducing action verbs. But before we move on, we need to before we submit, because right now we're just about ready to submit, but we need to make sure we're extremely careful in doing these final checks because our attention to detail reflects the effort that we put into it. And you think some little small thing that you might miss or almost miss, and you think it's not a big deal, that's the first thing. Someone who's reading 100 of these in a week, the first thing they will notice is that small mistake or error. So with that, let's talk about some absolutely must-do checks. One is margins. So this is typically set already in your document, but just make sure you set your margins to be 1 inch all around. I think these are actually 0.75 because that's how this thing came. And when I tried to change them, they were a complete mess. And I didn't want to redo everything. So 1 inch all around, 0.75 okay. It's totally fine. It just won't be necessary. And if you don't have a lot to include, there might be a lot of white space. So that's up to you. Final cuts for length. So this is where in our last video we talked about having 5 to 6 refined bullets with their expansions and their action result effect and all that stuff. 5 or 6 bullets per command. Your resume is probably spilling out off of the first page, and we really want to trim it down, unless you were in for like 10 years or whatever. 1 page, and even so, make some smart choices. 1 page really should be enough. And so this is where we make these final decisions. It'll be tough, but try to make sure that these remaining bullets reflect this teamwork, tenacity, and caring responsibility toward your job, your education, all the things that matter. Font is pretty straightforward. Just make sure your whole thing has the same font. I cannot think of a reason to have a different font in different parts of the resume. Same thing with font color. And I say be very careful to check this, especially if you're maybe copying and pasting from another document or from something you might have on another website. Make sure you're doing, after all that is in, you do a final check. Control A, everything is the same font, the same color. Font size. I say in context that these things should absolutely be the same. So you don't want to have your experience here, say font size 12, and then skills and interests are font size 10 or 11. That will show. But again, I think my entire resume is the same size. It's 11, 10 is fine, 12 is fine. I just have it that size because that's what fits nicely on this page. Consistent bold and italics. That's the same principle. So if education is bold, experience is bold, as is skills and interests. Same with italics for the dates. And right, so if this date is italicized, if for some reason you italicized some title up here in some bullet, make sure a similar title is also italicized in a different one. Probably don't need to worry about that. I don't think I have it in the document here, but same thing with capitalization, right? If this command name is capitalized, so should this one be. If these guys are all capitalized with their first letter, then so should these. Date formatting. So I like this one. I like this style, full month and full year. And you can see that in this resume. And, I have these X's, Y's, whatever, that just reflects the year. But whatever you do, make sure it's consistent. If you have May 2016 here, September 2018, don't have Jan 21 down here, right? So if it's full month, full year, keep that throughout. Do not chop it in any way. Or if you prefer one of these formats of dates for whatever reason, keep it consistent throughout. Grammar, this one's tricky because we're not trying to be like, 10th grader precise, everything is perfect. You probably wouldn't start a sentence with a verb if you were trying to be correct by 10th grade standards. You just don't want to sound ridiculous, right? So make sure you have your particles and pronouns and that your action words are clear in the sentences, right? Developed and analyzed code regarding Pine Island Glacier, like that might not be so clear. So just do a final read through, make sure it makes sense, have someone else read it, make sure it makes sense to them. Because remember that the people reading this are probably not veterans. So ideally have a non-veteran. I don't even put that in here. Have a non-veteran read for comprehension. Okay. Now, these two, you see spelling is bold. We'll get to there. Chop overhangs. This is sort of an aesthetic thing for me, and it's very optional. But so I have an example here that maybe, where's my mouse? Oh, I lost my mouse. That's embarrassing. Okay, here, I made this example here. Maybe if I took some time and really played with this sentence, I could cut it down so that it's a neat 2 lines or a full, 2.5. You can't see my finger coming out to the middle. I just don't love this just 1 or 2 words overhanging into a line, spilling over. It makes the whole resume longer, drags out the white space. But again, that is very, very much an aesthetic choice and not something that will make or break. As we see in this full, bold, all by itself final thing, after everything, we check, and check again the spelling. We cannot have spelling mistakes in a professional resume. So check it. If you make some changes and you think, oh, I was careful, when I copied and pasted this, or when I did these sentence overhangs, or when I realized I wanted to use a different action verb, I was very careful, and you think there's no way you added errors, it doesn't matter. Check again. Do not allow the possibility for spelling mistakes, and do not expect autocorrect to catch everything. The thing that it misses will be the thing that your reviewer sees. Again, just like with the comprehension, have a friend check and double check with you. The very, very final thing before it gets submitted. And with that, we have concluded the final video in what will likely be the final series of this Veteran Transfer Project tutorial series. So again, we have the personal statements, the letters of recommendation, and now these resumes. And with those 3 things, together with your transcripts, which there's not much to say there, study, get good grades, that really forms the trifecta, the trihedron of a strong transfer application. Again, these are real quick, the checks that we did in this check video, your margins, your final cuts for length, the font color, font size, bold, italics. I'll just throw this in here and say capitalization and date format, grammar, overhang, spelling. Okay, and with that, with the end of this Veteran Transfer Resume and General Tutorial Series, we have the beginning of your transfer quest and our collective quest, because we are in this together. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for caring about your education and through that about the world. Again, I've said this before, there are these resources on Next Step Inbound, Sword Circle Pen. And as I've said before, and I'm telling it to you, telling it to myself, because sometimes we just need to be reminded and to remind each other, enjoy your life. It's short. Live it. Love the people around you. Keep trying. Don't give up. It is worth it.